Welcome guys, and today I'm going to bring you my PvP Sork build. Now this is basically a AoE machine. The amount of AoE damage this thing puts out is just insane. So the idea behind this build was I kind of wanted to take advantage of the Destro ult, but at the same time not purely build a build around the Destro ult that only relied on a Destro ult. So, this is a very strong build without the Destro ult, but the Destro ult just makes this build crazy. So, as I do in a lot of my build videos, we're going to go over this gear really quickly, and then at the end I'll go into some more detail about some different sets you guys can run with this build, and some alternatives. I'll also explain where to get this gear and some different skills and stuff that I use on this build as well. So let's jump straight into it. So straight off the bat, I'm wearing 2 Groftar. Now the AoE damage from Groftar is crazy. The proc chance on Groftar is just stupid at the moment. It procs pretty much every time off cooldown. So, as I do on all my builds, I run infused on my large pieces and divines on my little pieces. So, I haven't had time to get all the exact pieces, so there's a few here like the belt's infused when it should be divines and things like that, and the shoulder's not divines. So, there's a few things that I need to still work on, but that is the ideal situation with this build. Infused on the large pieces. With a triglyph, I do have triglyphs on these 2 pieces, just not the helm yet. And then magic glyphs on all the little pieces. So, once helm sets 2 Groftar, then I'm running Clever Alchemist chest, arms and legs, and then I'm running Spider Cultist belt and boots. Now, I started this build with Spider Cultist. Now, this build that I'm explaining right now is pretty much generic. You can run this on. Now, I'm running Spider Cultist rings and necklace, all arcane with spell damage. I've only got blue ring with a blue, purple enchant on it, so there's room for improvement there. And I'm also only running a purple staff, so there's a bit more room for improvement. As you'll see, and I'll explain with my stats in a second, you guys with a fully polished finished build will have higher stats than what I do, and this build still kicks ass at the moment. So when it's finished and polished, it's going to be unreal. So Clever Alchemist lightning staff on my front bar, then dual wielding alchemist swords on my back bar. So basically, you have to swap to the back bar to proc your Alchemist, then swap back to your front bar to hit your Destro ult. It's slightly inconvenient, but that's the only way to run a 2-5 pieces on this build and still be able to run a Monster Helm set. So, let's have a quick look at our stats here. I do not have any Undaunted passives. I forgot to mention that I'm running 5-1-1. I don't have the Undaunted, so my magic is going to go up to about 40k with Undaunted. My health's going to go up to about 25, just under 25k with Undaunted, and we'll be sitting at maybe just shy of 12k stamina when we have Undaunted. Now our magic, let's just buff up here. Our magic recovery is just over 1500 buffed, which is fine. And we're... my bad, I did not proc my Clever Alchemist. But, just wait for my potion to come cooldown, I'll show you my buff. But we're sitting at basically 4000 almost. So we have 45% crit. And our resistances... almost 18,000, 16,000. So our base resist isn't that bad on this build because of Boundless Storm and Bound Angus, but I don't mind that those 16 and 17k resist is quite good for a light armor build. So our potion's off cooldown, let's just proc that. So as you can see, we're sitting just shy of 4,000 spell damage buffed up. This will hit 4,000 with a gold enchant and stuff like that once this build's kind of fully finished. So that's the gear. So let's quickly jump into the skills that I'm using. Now, on my front bar, we're double barring Bound Angus, so this is on both bars. Then we have Hardened Ward, which is one of our main defense abilities. Blockade of Storms is a ground-based AoE and is quite good, especially like when you've got enemies channeled through like a breach or something like that. This is really good. Then we have our spammable AoE, which is Storm Pulsar. And then we have Crystal Frags, which is pretty self-explanatory. Basically, the only time we use this is if it's procced and if we see someone within execute, or if it's a small fight, like, you know, we're not fighting raid on raid or something like that, I'll use Crystal Frags when I have one procced. And then Eye of the Storm is our ultimate. This just hits stupid hard when I'm buffed up. Then I have back bar. Obviously we've got Bound Angus double barred. Then we have Annulment, which is the light armor shield. It's non-morphed yet, so as I said, this is a new toon. A lot of things aren't quite leveled or finished off, so that will be morphed into Dampen Magic more than likely. Absorb Magic, sorry. Then we have Boundless Storm. This is our Major Resolve and Major Ward, giving us our resistance buffs. Also gives us Major Expedition for 7 seconds, which is really, really nice. And also is a reasonable AoE. Like, it's just one of those things that doesn't do much damage, but when you're adding all these AoE abilities on top of each other, they really do stack up. So it is a really nice ability. Then we have Streak. This is really good ability to use offensive, and it's a really good defensive ability, and I'll explain later a little bit more how I use this. And then we have Endless Fury. Either morph of this is really good. I've just been trying this morph out because I always use the other morph, so that's kind of up to you which morph you want to take. And then we have Overload. Now, I don't even have Overload morph because I don't even really use it. It's just, I use it for the third bar. So, I lead a lot of raids, and a lot of groups always lack support abilities and support builds. So, I kind of set my third bar up as that kind of support, kind of building as such. So I've got rapid maneuvers and I've got siege shields. So, you know, we don't need these very often. I don't need to use them very often. So, you know, we might be moving from keep to keep, and I can just pop into this bar and I can pop rapids or something every now and then. Then we have Encase or Restraining Prison on case we're lacking CC. I can swap over here and hit this a few times. And then these two here just kind of flex spots. You can put whatever you want in here. I really should have Bound Angus on here so I don't lose that magic when I swap to Overload. So Bound Angus would be going in there. Daedric Minefield I do use, and probably would be the other ability I'd have on here. And I do swap Boundless Storm or Streak out every now and then, one of these abilities here, or even sometimes my shield on my back bar for Daedric Mines, just because it's really handy in some situations. So that's the skills, the basic skills I use. I'm also using the Mage Munderstone for the max magic. I am also using the max health Witch Mother's Potent Brew, which is max health and max magic and magic recovery. That's how we get our you know, our decent magic recovery without running anything really into recovery. So we just ran out of food, that's why our stats just went dramatically down. So that's the basic build, the basic stats, and just the overall gist of the build. So if you guys want to hang around, I'm going to go into more detail and explain a little bit more about how this build works and how I use it, and some different sets you can use for this build and all that kind of jazz. So stay tuned and I'll get into that kind of stuff. Okay guys, let's get into a little bit more detail about this build. Now, if you wanted to run this build but be a bit more tanky, there's a few things you can do. Now, one would be running 5 heavy instead of 5 light, and you could also run a sword and board on your back bar. I kind of would advise not doing that, but if you do want to be tankier, then that's fine, going that way. So also, if you wanted to mid-max this build into more like more damage than what it already has, and get those storms to hit super hard, suggest running max health, max magic food, and that's gonna give you, with undaunted passives, probably somewhere around the 43,000 kind of max magic mark, and going to make this build hit a lot harder with like mage light and stuff on your bar as well to increase your max magic and stuff like that. So that is an option. I'm going to kind of try that build when I have my undaunted and just kind of see how hard I can actually get this storm to hit for. Now, if you wanted to go a more sustained build with more recovery, probably the easiest way you could do that is just by running the max health magic recovery food. That's going to give you probably somewhere around 2 and a bit magic recovery. Also, if you really wanted to go high sustain, you could just enchant some of your jewelry, like 2 recovery glyphs and that food, and you'd be sitting at like 2.6 magic recovery, which would give you mad sustain. But you really don't need it with this build, well, the way I play it anyway, because I heavy attack a lot. 1, to build my ult up, and 2, the lightning heavy attack actually does half decent AoE damage. So there are a few different ways you can run this build. Now, as I actually don't know if I mentioned before, but this gear setup's really generic. It can work on any class, but for this sorcerer, I'm actually farming Netch at the moment, which is the set that increases your lightning damage. So basically, what the Netch is going to do over the Destro set is the Destro set's only buffing these 2 abilities, my Blockade, my Pulsar, and my Destro ult. The Netch set is going to buff the Blockade, the Pulsar, the Lightning Storm, and it's also going to buff my Streak, my Endless Fury, and Boundless Storm. So, and Overload if I do use Overload. So it's going to buff a lot more things on my bar. If you're going to play this build on another class, though, it's probably not going to work nowhere near as well. So the Destro ult set is really good. So Spider Cultist comes from Fungal Grotto 1 or 2. The Netch comes from Darkshade Caverns 1 and 2. And obviously the Alchemist is crafted, and I believe it's a 7 trait crafted set. And the Groftar comes from Vaults of Madness, I believe. I could be wrong there. If you give me 2 secs, I'll just look it up. And then I can guaranteely tell you which one it comes from. Now, Groftar, Vaults of Madness, yes it does. So Vaults of Madness is where you get your Groftar. Obviously your shoulder will come from the pledges and opening the chests. I'm not 100% sure which chest it comes from. That you would have to look up and find out, or ask me in the comments and I can look it up for you. So there's probably not the only other way I would recommend running this build is if you didn't want to have to swap to your back bar to proc the Alchemist and all that stuff, or say worst case you don't have a Groftar shoulder, then you could run Netch and the Destro alt set, so you could run 5 and 5. And there's probably a lot of other sets you could run with this 5 and 5. So even Juliano's could work, and things like that. And you could run 5 on both bar and not have to worry about having just one 5-piece set on one bar. The problem is with the Groftar set, the 1 and 2, I physically don't have the slots to be able to run 5 and 5 on both bars. So I have to run the build this way. The only other set that would work with this build, well, if you really wanted a sustained build, you could run Lynch on your back bar. Now, I don't really like recommending Lynch because Amber Plasm is such a better set, but Lynch is good in these situations where you can only run it on one bar. So the way this build kind of works, the way I play it, and I was talking about Streak being a really, really valuable ability, is now the thing is, this thing does stupid amounts of AoE damage. So if you can sit in a middle of a raid, you're gonna kill them. The problem is when you hit your Destro ult, people scatter and they get out of your shit. So this is where Streak and Boundless Storm kind of comes into effect, because you kind of chase them down and force them to be inside all your AoE. So kind of, I'll hit my Destro ult and then I'll streak into the group. Hopefully the rest of my group kind of locks them down and they're stuck in there. Worst case, they've ran, I'll just streak after them, hit my Boundless Storm, kind of stay on them and work them down. Also, if it's a pretty non-mobile fight and they're kind of hanging around the same area, I'll put my Elemental Blockade down and basically just sit in there and pulsar. And then obviously hitting my shields in between and keeping myself up and alive and all that kind of stuff. Besides Crystal Frags, as I said, don't use that much unless, I need a single target. And same with Mage's Wrath. I don't really find myself using it that much because, my job is to get in the middle and wear them down. And then, let my spinners and all that kind of stuff execute. To be honest, there's just not enough AoE damage builds in Cyrodiil. No one kind of... It's just an ongoing problem that people kind of look up all these builds and they're all dueling builds mainly, or small scale PvP builds, and they, copy these builds and they are really good builds for what they're designed for. They're not designed for group PvP, and that's a problem. Not really many people make group PvP builds. And, that's what this is. And, it's got... I try and make all my builds have the full package, I don't like getting locked down into, not being versatile, because you need to be versatile in PvP. So, I do have awesome damage, I do have really good sustain, really tanky through my shields. And then also, I've got my third bar with my rapids and my siege shield and, all that stuff. So, I've even got a good support role. And then you know, if I do need my single target, I've got my Mage's Wrath and I've got my Crystal Frags. You know, so if you did want to, you know, run a little bit more of a single target build, you could put Vicious Curse in here and run that as well. Something else I really do want to mention is something that I always tell people to run, and that's Proxy. As you can see, I'm just shy of unlocking it. So once I unlock Proxy, that will be going on my bar. To be honest, it will probably replace Mage's Wrath or Crystal Frags. One of the two on my bar. Crystal Frags will probably come back here. No, my Proxy will probably go here instead of my Mage's Wrath. I can proc that on my front bar and then a back bar and go to my front bar. So that's pretty much what will happen once I get Proxy. And I also wouldn't mind running Caltrops on my support bar as well, because it's handy sometimes for throwing over breaches and stuff like that. So that's the build, guys. I did have a little bit of footage at the start. I've only kind of just started playing this build and just kind of got it to the point where I was happy to share it with you guys. So this is the build I'm running in PvP at the moment, so I will be getting a lot of footage over the next week or two. So hopefully in a good week or so I can get a nice amount of good footage for you, and I'll put a gameplay video together of this build. But at the end of the day, if you want a super high AoE DPS build that's basically got it all, this is a really good build for you. And especially if you're a sorcerer and you can swap in Netch for the Spider Cultist, is going to make this build even stronger. And obviously having your Undaunted and all those things maxed out. And like, just little things, guys. All these little things just add up and make such a big difference. And you know, like, I don't even have the last passive on my dual world. So basically I'm getting another 5% increase to damage just there when I unlock it. And this build is already crazy. I'm kind of scared to really see this build when it's fully polished and finished. It's just going to be too dangerous. So I hope you guys enjoyed, and if I forgot to cover something, or if you got some more questions about the build, hit me up in game or leave in the comments here, and I'll try and answer or help you out as soon as I can. So yeah, guys, that's the build. I hope it's helped, and I hope you enjoy it. So guys, that's the build, and I hope this build's helped in some way and gave you some really good ideas on how to run a really strong AoE DPS in Cyrodiil. We sure do need a lot more builds dedicated to AoE damage in Cyrodiil. Like, we just lack it, we always do. So I've just got our website back up today, so I'll link that in the description. Basically, give me a day or so after I post build videos and that kind of stuff, and I'll get a written form of my builds on the website, because I know my video quality is really bad and you guys can't really see a lot of things I highlight on the screen. So if you want to get those specific details and stuff like that, you can go to our website and check that out. I also created our guild Facebook page today too, so I'll link that in the description as well. So if you guys have any questions, check out the website, or if you still have any questions after that, hit me up in game or leave a comment and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. So if you haven't already, hit that like button if you liked the video. If you didn't like the video, you know what to do. And also, if you haven't subscribed already, hit that sub button so you can be notified when I have some more awesome videos. So cheers guys, and I'll catch you next time.